Before you even think about buying a business, step one is to figure out exactly how much business you can afford. If you don't have that figured out, nothing else will matter, and everyone, brokers, sellers, and lenders, will see right through that. Most people have it backwards. They want to shop for a business, then later figure out if they can afford it. Wrong. So in today's video, I'm going to walk you through my acquisition calculator, part of our buy box training for our students. I'm going to tell you exactly a very simple way with a few formulas, actually knowing how much business you can afford based on your financial capabilities. That is power when it comes to buying a business. So let's get to it. Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. I am your host, Leo Landaverde, business broker and commercial lender, helping you buy and scale a profitable business. Are you a small business owner looking to increase your wealth, or a W-2 employee sick and tired of the rat race wanting to get out by buying a profitable business? Then you are in the right place. Please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to hit the bell. You'll be notified every Thursday when new content comes out.
Here we go, guys, as promised. So let's face it, before I go on to show you how this tool works, you need to know that the business acquisition market is getting saturated. Buyers are coming in by the thousands every month looking to compete for profitable businesses. Now, this is because of what's going on in the real estate investing, squeezing profits out of real estate investors, making less and less money per door. It's forcing people to look at other ways that are, higher return on investment and cash on cash returns. So what I want to do is I want to show you what not to do and what to do. So a lot of people, as I said at the beginning, go looking for a business that they cannot afford, and the deals fall apart, and you become blacklisted by brokers. Because let me tell you right now, you got to know what to say, and you got 30 seconds worth of their time to gain the attention of brokers like me, sellers for off-market deals, and lenders and attorneys and the like, and M&A advisors. It's becoming saturated. So this is survival of the fittest. So I want to do this video so I can help you get the edge on the competition, because you got to speak the language. There is such thing as a language in the mergers and acquisition space. And if you're an acquisition entrepreneur, you need to understand what we're talking about inside the industry. So speaking of how much business you can afford, so I built this little tool that I am basically going to give away. And it doesn't have a lot of moving parts. Everything is already locked up with formulas. But what we're going to do is we begin with the assumption that you have cash to invest. Now, if you're looking to buy a business and you want to get 100% financed by the seller or some gimmick that would allow you to put no money down, then you probably need to turn this video off and go elsewhere, because that's not what I do. I help my students buy profitable business, but they got to have some equity injection. If you're going to look and work with a bank and you're looking for a zero money down, this is not the place. But if you have a little bit, 5-10% down to invest in a business, this is the place. This is what I do. This is what I've done for a long time. So those are the assumptions. So we have 3 levers to pull. I'm going to walk you. One is cash to invest, how much you have, the multiple of SDE, and the multiples vary. It's not the standard 3 times SDE that is going to give you the value. It depends on the industry. There are some industries that are very hot that you're not going to be able to buy a business unless you're competing in the range of 4, 5, 6 times SDE. And the third one is the interest rate. The interest rates for most SBA loans are going to be prime plus 2, prime plus 2.5. 90% of the lenders are going to be competing on the variable realm, which means they're going to adjust quarterly to prime. Now, there are some banks, the larger banks, that will offer you fixed 10-year loans at the treasury plus 3 points, but puts you in the neighborhood of 7%. That's really for serial buyers, super high net worth. They bought businesses before. If you're a first-time buyer, you're going to be stuck with a 7A loan, and that's what you're going to get. So it doesn't really matter. I don't really care what the rate is. It's all about the debt service coverage ratio. So I'm going to walk you through these assumptions and what those are, and as we walk in through the different examples. So let me explain what the columns mean. So column A is the percentage of leverage. This is about leverage. And you can, the more money you put in, the less leverage, the less amount of money that has leverage. For average, the average, this two numbers right here in red is 90 and 90% leverage, which means the sweet spot is 90% leverage, which is row 12. Now you got your buying power, you got your leverage debt, your approximate SDE, and then you have, your revenue ranges and the monthly service debt, annual debt service, post debt service cash flow, cash on cash return, and debt service coverage ratio in that order. So let me tell you what the numbers mean, how they work. Let's say you have, as I said before, there are 3 buckets of cash that you have to have available when you're buying a business. One is your equity injection, which is your down payment. Number 1. Number 2 is going to be your post-closing liquidity. It doesn't have to be in cash, but it has to be an availability of cash in case something happens. And the third is working capital. Working capital may be given to you, worked into the deal by the seller, may come from the bank, or it may come from you. So, and that is money to make sure that if something happens, you got the working capital, which is you're going to need to, because if you're buying a business, you're not going to buy the AR. You're not going to buy the AP, so you're going to have to generate sales and meet your expenses and cover your operating expense for 30 days as you're generating receivables and creating AP so you can have the working capital for the next month. So because it's trailing 30 days behind. So working capital is a very, very complex matter that I don't want to have the time to talk about right now. Anyway, $100,000 to invest. Now, the average students that I work with, they come anywhere from $50,000 to $1 million worth of cash to invest in different strokes for different folks. We specialize in the lower middle market, which is basically 1 million to 20 million. We really don't do very many Main Street deals, the smaller deals. We do 1 plus to 20 million. Okay, so let's say you had 100,000 to invest. Now, that means that at the 90 percentile of leverage of debt, you can buy $1 million business. You leverage a $900,000 loan. And if you have a 2.5 times multiplier, that means that the average SDE on that deal would be 400,000, which means you have approximate revenue range of businesses, depending on the industry, depending whether they have cost of goods sold or not, professional service, and all those variations could be anywhere from as little as 2 million to 4 million in range. So with $100,000 at 2.5 times SDE on a 9.75 interest rate, which is prime is 7.5 as of right now, which as of today, which is February 2025, on a 10-year term amortized. At 2.5 times $1 million, 400,000 SDE times 2.5 is going to be $1 million. That is your buying. That's your purchase price, your buying power, which means you're going to be looking at businesses that are in the neighborhood of 2 million to 4 million. And your monthly debt service is going to be anywhere from 11,000, right? Somewhere in the neighborhood, give and take, 11,769 plus minus, right? A few dollars. Your annual debt service is 141. Your post debt service cash flow on a $400,000 SDE is going to be 258. Your cash on cash return is 259. Where else are you going to see cash on cash return north of 100%? Unless you're actually buying a business. That's why this is so hot. And your debt service coverage ratio is 2.83. Now let's change things a little bit. Let's say you still have the same 100,000, but your multiple of SDE for that industry is three times. Notice that the numbers change. Now instead of 400,000 SDE, you're looking at deals that are.
Are you stuck and trying to figure out how to buy a business? I know you are, because we talk to hundreds of folks every month trying to figure out how to buy a business. Now, I'm sure you have questions and we have the answers. When do you get pre-qualified? Do you show proof of funds? Do you talk to brokers? Do you do exclusively on market? Or do you focus on market, off market, that is? Do you go after a specific industries, even if you don't have the experience? How much management experience? How much down payment? How much working capital? How much post-closing liquidity when you talk to the lenders? And so on, and so on, and so on. We want to help you. And we're inviting you to connect with us for a free complimentary call. All you have to do is even drop me a comment in this video or shoot us an email. My email address will be up there in the description of this video and also on the screen as well. So let's connect. Let me have my team help you with a complimentary call, give you a strategy that you can use to buy a business and get most of your questions answered.
333,000, say 350, with approximate revenue range of 1.6 to 3.3. With a debt service of about 11,769 with the same annual, nothing has changed. It's the same interest rate, but your posted service cash flow went down to 192, and instead of 300,000, you have 192 cash on cash returns, 2.36 debt service coverage ratio. For the sake of debt service coverage ratio, anything over 1.5 is good. Now we want 2, we want 3. Some of our students the highest deal we ever done last year was a student, Chris, who actually got a 4x DSER deal on our roofing company. It's pretty amazing. It was a sweetheart deal. We loved it, and he's actually buying another deal. So now let me caution you with something. Now, with 100,000 at 3 times SDE at 9.75, can you leverage that 100,000 into a 5% deal, 5% down, which means that you can leverage that into a $1.9 million loan with approximate SDE of 666,000 with revenue range between 3 and 6. Your debt service would be higher, right? It's a bigger business. Your annual debt service would be higher because it's a $1.9 million loan, but then your post-debt service is higher, and your cash on cash return is 369 with a 2.24 debt service coverage ratio. Now, how can you get away with doing this? Now, there are times where it makes sense based on you, who you are, your management experience, all your accolades, all the circumstantial case that makes you a great buyer with letters of support, great post-closing liquidity. Now, there may be times that a lender, if we're looking with an SB lender, may let you get away with it if there is a 5% seller note involved, may or may not be on standby. So that covers the 5% injection. So the 5% seller carry and your 5% equals 10%. The bank doesn't want to be out more than 90. So that's how you can actually get more leverage. But you got to proceed with caution because there is such thing as too much debt. I don't like going on a deal over 90%. If I can do it better, it's fine. But remember, as you put more and more money down, your cash on cash return goes lower. Notice in this case with 100,000, as you put more money down, so you buy lesser business. So if you want to put 20, if you want to have 25%, you're looking at 133,000 buying power, right? So it's lesser business. You're going to have a higher debt to service coverage ratio, but your cash and cash return is 39%. So I don't recommend that. You want to truly use OPM, and the sweet spot for debt service coverage ratio on LTV on the deal is 90%. That's what I teach. 90%, not 95%, but we have done deals like that before, not too many. So let's see what happens if you had. Now, there are some industries that are starting to get more competitive, and to compete, you got to pay a little more. Say you had the same $100,000. Now you have a 4-time multiple to compete. Now, instead of 400,000 let me show you what happens. So at 4 times SDE, your SDE, you're paying 4 times 250 puts you at $1 million. Now that means there is lesser of everything. It's lesser. The higher the multiple, the less post-debt service coverage ratio and the less post-debt service cash flow. The numbers are starting to go down. Remember I told you about the 1.5 magic ratio? Well, as you start to cross over into higher multiples, you see all the numbers start to go down. You're paying much more for that SDE. The more you pay for the SDE, the more expensive the business. So, and the lesser I would never buy a business with post-debt service cash flow of 58,000 with an annual of 141,000. And even though it may be acceptable for a bank at 1.42 in this particular situation, you're paying 5 multiple. Forget the industry. Maybe you run into a property management company that is very competitive, and you want to compete, and you're willing to pay. You're trading at 4 times, but you wanted to pay 5 times because you want to be a better deal for the seller. I get it. But be careful that it just puts you in a bad situation. So if the debt service coverage, if the SDE is 200 and you're paying 5 times that, see what happens to your cash on cash return goes down, and you're not longer making it on the debt service coverage ratio. So let me show you the difference. The opposite is true as you're going down to a 2.5. Now, Two, 2.5, three, 3.5. Those are no brainers for debt service coverage ratio. Look at what happens at 2.5 times 400,000 with the same 100,000. That puts you at a staying buying power. You can buy $1 million business doing 400,000 in SDE with the same 11,769 in debt service, monthly and annual of 141. Those numbers right here, these two columns have not changed at all. The only thing that is changing is your post debt service, column J, your post debt service cash flow. Now, at a deal like this, if you had a 2.5 times, and whether off market or market, you were able to walk into a situation where you control the narrative, you emerge as the best buyer, and you're able to squeeze your SDE to 2.5 times, defensible by tax returns. You get a pre-flight underwritten by an SBA lender, and you're ready. You're a cash buyer. You're ready to go. Then in those cases, you may be able to get away with a little more leverage, because then you may be able to acquire a business doing 800 SDE with the same 100,000, right? Because your cash on cash return would be, it's crazy, right? It's just, but it's on a case by case basis. So while I'm saying to you that you can use this tool, you can use it with caution. There's a bunch of other tools available here within this workbook, like your cash requirements, your buy box, your working capital, and a bunch of other things that I teach that I'm going to teach in some other videos. You need to understand how much business you can afford. That is the number one thing. So now let's go back to 3 times, and let's go back to, now let's say you have $75,000. Okay. So at 90% loan to value, your acquisition power on a 90% loan to value is $750,000. If you have $50,000, you have a $500,000 purchasing power. Anything below, we really don't like students to, unless they have at least $50,000 to invest, because you're not gonna buy a meaningful business with less than $50,000 down. It's just I don't see it. As hyper competitive the market is becoming, and you wanna shoot for the bigger. We believe in our group inside of Business Acquisition Mastery that bigger is better. Bigger is better. Although once you get into the realm of the 400, 500, 600,000 SDE, you're going to be competing with the private equity groups and the family office. And that is okay. Bigger will always be better. But what I teach inside of our group, there's many ways you can set yourself apart. You can raise above the tide and become the best buyer that you can be. So remember, you can play with this variable so that your cash to invest, let's say you have 200,000. Okay. At 3 times SDE, what is your purchasing power? It's $2 million business doing between 3 and 6 million. And if you manage to get it at 2 times SDE, you're looking big numbers. You're looking at huge numbers. We have probably half a dozen students that have bought businesses in excess of 700,000 SDE. So just to whet your appetite, there is just wait. I really have come from an abundance mentality. There's so many deals out there. We just need qualified students. So if you want to connect with us, let us know. Hopefully this video helps you. And you can actually download this, follow the prompts.
For a limited time, we're giving away our Deal Analyzer 2.0, which is our cash flowing calculator, to figure out exactly how to do a quick and dirty evaluation of a business before you make an offer. Now, this is sort of a scaled down version of the other analyzer tool that we use inside of our Business Acquisition Mastery group, which is called Deal Analyzer 3.0. But this one is powerful enough that if you had nothing else, you can get a ballpark figure within a couple $100,000 how much a business is worth. It's a tool, and it's a free tool. I'm giving it to you so you can use it. It's better than many other things out there that are actually paid for. So to download it, just click on the links below. And I'm also giving you my business buyer checklist, which is like a punch list that you can use as a 6-page document that we use inside of our group for the pay members, that tells you everything that needs to happen at every step of the way, from deal sourcing to closing, when it comes to buying a business. And it is my gift, my thanks to you for watching my videos. Download them. The links below.